I would say, first of all, to finish the operation of liberating Mosul and to then secure it, and then start the work of reconstruction of the basic infrastructure to show that the government are really willing and really do care about the well-being of all of these lands and villages and cities which been liberated. And this would encourage definitely the people to go back again and contribute also in the process. So I would say security is the first, it's the priority now. And when they see that the government have not really stepped in and did something really concerning that, because the government now, everyone is focused on fighting Daesh inside the city of Mosul. So they've delayed all these kind of reconstruction programs, and they've showed that there is lack of funds concerning this. These kind of statements really have discouraged our people from really thinking seriously of going back. But still, we do understand why the government probably is saying that. But I would say we need some time, although time is very critical, but we need some time before really stepping inside all of these areas and start doing some work. The sooner the better, of course. But this depends on so many facts, not just lack of funds. I mean, we are aware of political disputes around these villages and cities. It's not been settled yet, and this also have contributed to worsen the situation as such. So I would say the government, when they declare these kind of statements, definitely the courage of the people, the enthusiasm of the people to go back would be harmed in that way. Well, it depends. Each village has its own story. So now, for example, in the village of Telskov, we have 250 families. This is, would say, less than a third of the community which was originally settled there in August 2014. Some people still worried about the well-being of the village. Others have already settled in Duhok and Erbil, and they would wait until the end of the academic year, the school year, to make their mind concerning going back. But still, a good number have decided to go back again. Bakofa would be also, the people of Bakofa would be willing to go back. Batnaya, because of the damage and destruction, I would doubt, although the people would like to go, but Batnaya is closer to Mosul than to Luskov, but the damage is almost 80% there. I mean, so I would say, yes, it depends, back again, it depends on how serious we are on this issue. I mean, as you know, the Chaldean Church have started the work in Luskov, which also have helped the community in that matter, really, to push them to think seriously of going back. So I would say quarter of the community are willing now, or already are in the area, and we have another number waiting until the academic year would end. It's a hope and a wish that the law would govern all of these area, but the reality, as I see it, it would be really difficult. We need some time before really realizing that there is a need for law which would be respected by all. The sectarian, I mean, violence which occurred in Mosul and in so many parts of the country have weakened that sense of the importance of law. The creation of militias, all of this would be really obstacles to see. we would like to see really the law governing the life of the people, but we are concerned because of the situation of the reality that shows different. And here we need the support of the international community to remind the Iraqi politicians of the importance of really building a state upon law, and law that respects everyone and protect the rights of every citizen. Because as it stands now, I would doubt that we would be seeing some kind of improvement on that line. Fighting Daesh is one, and then putting pressure on Iraqi politicians to readjust all of these wrong policies which have prepared some circumstances for Daesh and all of these sectarian groups to active in area like Mosul, and then also to put some pressure on Iraqi governments on the importance of really protecting the well-being and prosperity of the minorities, Christians, Yazidis, Shabak, in that area, and helping these communities to maintain themselves. And probably at this stage, it's probably strange to ask. I think all of these minorities would need some kind of political and social and economical privileges to encourage them to stay. It's a strange request if we would like to build a country for all. But we are now, what we call, the number of the communities just shrinking, and we cannot compete, and we cannot really sustain ourselves in a situation where we are surrounded by so much violence. And so you need a push from the government to really strengthen the presence of these minorities. Personally speaking, I'm really at least encouraged to see that at least someone is thinking of the Christians and giving not a priority, but at least attracting attention. There are people who are suffering. Yes, everyone have suffered from the sectarian violence since 2004, and still we cannot deny that so many Muslims, Shia and Sunni, have been victims of this. But what's unique about Christians, and probably Yazidis, that we never participated. We were not part of this sectarian violence between Shia and Sunni. We tried to bridge, and the church itself have worked really in so many areas and initiate so many of what we call this dialogue between these two and try to get them closer. But we were victims of all of this violence. And when someone at least will say, well, listen, there are people who are suffering because of their religion and because of their faith, yes, this would give you hope that finally someone is thinking of doing something. I don't know how much he's going to do, and probably some people would say such statements probably would bring the negative attention and would turn against you. That's probably right. That's some people would hear this Trump statements and would say there is a new crusade. Probably it's going to emerge. All of these scenarios is possible. But for me, I would say this is probably the first time that what we call an American politicians, like a president, would say, no, there are some people who are dying, who are suffering because of their faith, and we have to think seriously about them. I was and still against the militias. I mean, militias would probably solve a problem in the short term, but it would complicate the whole political process in the long term. This will not help really building a country which respects a law for all. I mean, those militias, they are used to carry guns, and they solve their problems with guns, and definitely they will take these measures and these tools with them. What we need is a unified army, an Iraqi army, or as has been what we call the Peshmerga, which is one of the recognized and authorized defense system within the Iraqi defense forces. I was always encouraging my people to join either the Iraqi army or the Peshmerga, not to create a new militia that would later on complicate the political process. And what we were really afraid of happened, because at the end of the day today, when you go to Nineveh Plain, for example, you see 6 flags, 7, 8. So this would also be another fact for discouraging people to go back again, because they would say, well, there we have tribes which would control the day-to-day life. So this would not help. We need political, economical, and social privileges. And the people of Nineveh Plain have the right really to decide the best way to govern their lives. I am not politicians to say this is the best way. I think the people have to speak together and evaluate their whole situation after going back, because it's too early to speak about all of these projects once you don't know really what would be there, who would be there, how many people, what kind of community would be there, the way of life there. I think liberating, securing, and allowing people to go back, and then helping them to consider. But you need the support, you need some privileges, you need the protection in a way. You need to remind everyone, the Iraqi government, the Kurdish government, that everyone has a responsibility of maintaining the Christian and Yazidi presence and Shabak presence in Nineveh Plain. This would not help. I think it's good to strengthen this group so they could really be a good contributors, not to isolate them, no, to strengthen them so they could really give, not just to get. Because you had a state with law. I know there was a dictatorship, yes, but there was a law that at least whenever there is a problem or disputes, you know where to go. Probably after 1991 and 1992, some of the tribal measures were introduced also, which damaged this state of law. But still, there was a law, and there was a dialogue of life between the Christians and Muslims that helped both communities to work together. And in Mosul, for example, it was well known the contribution of the Christians in the educational system and healthcare system, and so many professionals, especially in the private sector. The Christians were well known in their business, and they were working together until this sectarian violence started. Which started in Baghdad, affected the life of the people in Mosul, and then allowed, gave a good atmosphere for sectarian groups, extremist groups also to emerge, and this have affected this dialogue of life. And to start this dialogue of life again, it needs some good efforts and really courageous people to take some initiatives to say what happened was exceptional. this is not the way that we live together. And I think this would be one of the challenges of after Daesh. This is the work of the Muslims. They have to. This is the homework of the Muslims to do it, with the help of Christians, of course. We have to say, we don't have to say, no, we were victims and we have enough. No, we have to say, yes, we were victims, but we have to continue dialogue with them and telling them how it would affect negatively if you continue the same way. And that's why we need to change the curriculum. We need to influence the speeches of the Fridays. This is not without Christians. Yes, it's the homework of the Muslims to do, but it's not without Christians. I was encouraged by so many statements made by the Bishop Conference, United States Bishop Conference, and by bishops also and cardinals on this matter. But probably we need more in that sense. We need, for example, to set a week of solidarity with the Christians, persecuted Christians in Middle East. In that sense, where all the Catholic Church around America would be aware of the situation, speaking in their parishes more, and the media. And I mean, this week of solidarity, I think it's important, because this would add to their efforts and contribution on this. The Bishop Conference were not really neglecting what's happening, and we have received so many bishops over the last 2 years and a half who came and watched closely, and Cardinal Dolenfar was here, and other bishops were here, and we do have also good communication with other bishops who showed interest, not just interest, but really do care about the situation. But I think a week of solidarity all over the United States would help really boosting the efforts of the United States Bishop Conference. To be honest with you, I have secured the funds for rent until the end of June 2017 by Knights of Columbus and by Aid to the Church in Need. And I think we do need more, at least for another 3 months until the end of, for example, September, where there is a possibility, a quiet possibility, if things would continue as it is now, for people to return. And then even when they return, they do need help in their villages. So I would say we should prepare ourselves for a commitment for another year of funds and help, if we would like really to see Christians staying either in Erbil or Duhok, or going back again to their villages. So yes, it's financial aid is urgent, and we could give you a document which would show how much churches around the world have contributed. And we've always heard it from the UN, shortage of funds. The church is doing the work in a professional way. We cannot really compete with the church, because the help that's being given by the church to the IDPs, it's very professional, and we cannot do the work better than this. And then we were left alone. The work of the Chaldean Archdiocese of Erbil was always to help the IDPs to live with dignity, and also to keep the Christian presence here in Iraq, in the way that helping the IDPs with their immediate needs, and also accompany them in their spiritual journey and pastoral activities, so to encourage them to stay, and later on, as I told you, to contribute of the well-being of the whole country. Prayer is the first, raising awareness is second, informing their politicians of the needs to support all the persecuted Christians around the world, especially in Middle East in this critical time, and continue the financial help to really maintain the projects that would help the IDPs to live with dignity.